been a big part of my life from the very beginning. I grew up in the Smoky Mountains of western North Carolina in Robbinsville, right up against Knoxville, Tennessee, on country and bluegrass, hillbilly. From there, I went to State School for the Blind in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I was introduced at 7 years old, when I was 7 years old, to that strange form of music they call classical music. I studied violin at 7 and piano. I started studying piano when I was 8, guitar and cello and woodwinds. I did have a lot of training in music during this period. After school, we had academic classes from 8:30 until 3, and then music from 3 until 5. So during this period, I was studying classical music. Then at the same time, during the 50s, I was listening and playing rock music. And eventually, after school, after getting out of high school into college, playing more rock and pop music and country music. So it's always been part of my life. Oh, yes. I felt that music was just an enjoyment, a hobby, more or less. Especially when I was going through, going through school, because all my teachers and instructors, the faculty, they always were saying, oh, we want you to do something constructive, something that will be worthwhile. And so I decided after finishing high school that I would go to college and study law. I was on scholarship from the state of North Carolina to study law. After 2 years of college, I decided that what I love most is music. And I was spending too much time doing what everybody wanted me to do instead of what my heart told me to do, and that was to play and sing. So I did make an exit from college and started playing clubs in Atlanta, moved to Memphis, played clubs there, and finally moved over to Nashville. Well, I know that, of course, going through School for the Blind in North Carolina, it's a wonderful school, super school, and not only teach you music and good academic studies, but they teach one to be very independent and very self-sufficient, and I guess they probably build confidence by doing this. So I always felt that if I work hard, at my music, I always felt it from the very beginning that somewhere that it would pay off. I've thought about those things, the hardships, but to me, there never really been that many hardships, although I spent many years in the music business professionally since 1966, so I've been around for a while. But there's so much fun, there's so much good, and there's so many good times that I've had playing and being a part of the music business, and being a part of playing in nightclubs or cutting the records that I have and meeting the people, that honestly I don't really feel the hardships, and I've never really been a starving musician, I guess, as some have. Well, to say music got me in trouble, I guess I could speak about one incident that happened when I was going to school in Raleigh. I was in the music department for many, many years there, as I mentioned, participating in the chorus and in woodwinds and in the orchestra. And I was a piano student. And at this time, going through the 50s, I loved Jerry Lee Lewis and Fats Domino and Chuck Berry and Bobby Darin and all these folks, and I love to go in there and sit in the practice room, and instead of playing Chopin or Brahms or Bach, I'd rip off Jerry Lee, because it's what I felt, it's what I enjoyed. But the instructors, teachers I had, they only wanted us to practice classical music, so It was one day, I can remember the day very vividly. It was February the 3rd, 1959, because it was the day that Buddy Holly and Big Bopper and Richie Valens died in the plane crash. But I and another friend of mine were in the practice room playing some rock and roll, and the head music instructor came in and she said, "That's it, Milsap. We've had enough of your rocking and rolling, and not enough of your playing classical music, and we're going to throw you out of the department." And they did throw me out of the music department. I stayed out for the rest of the whole year and did not get to participate in any of the good things that they had going on that spring. So I guess it did get me in trouble at that time. Yes, music was a beautiful ally at several times in my life because, it does bridge a lot of things. It is a universal language, but I can think of the most meaningful time to me was when I first went to college. The first day that I went there, a couple of guys that were rooming with me, they said, "Well, we don't exactly know how to act around somebody that's blind. In fact, we don't want to room with somebody that's blind." And I said, "Well, that's all right. That's fine. Can we try it out for a couple of weeks and see how it works?" And they said, "Okay, we'll do that." So that's what we agreed to do. Well, during this 2-week period, I had a chance to go over to one of the other dormitories there on campus that had a piano, and my roommates were along. And I think they were going down to wash some clothes at the laundry or something. Anyway, I sat down at the piano and had a chance to play a little bit. Well, by the time that they got back upstairs to the room was full. We had about 40 or 50 folks in the room there, and we were just all having a good time. And I don't believe that I would have been able to break that gap that I felt at that time without my music, and it did create a lot of friends for me at that time, and I wound up rooming with those guys all the way through college. Yeah, I do. And eventually it will be part of what I intend to do, which is to bring many, many forms of music together. Piano, I have spent more time with. Played 8 years of concert piano, and I played many years, like I mentioned, in clubs playing keyboard instruments. So piano is one of my favorite instruments. I am working a couple of new instruments into my show, the guitar and the fiddle, and it will be a bigger part of. They will be a bigger part of my show eventually than they are right now. So I do intend to not just be chained to piano entirely. I worked in Atlanta playing Playboy Circuit and other nightclubs there, and then I moved to Memphis, Tennessee. Lived 3.5 years in Memphis playing nightclubs again, and had a taste of recording some records locally with some friends in Memphis. I moved to Nashville at the end, or right at the 1st January of 1973. I came to Nashville at the end of 1972 and met some people and reacquainted myself with some friends, and actually didn't make the move until '73. I'd done some recording, as I say, over in Memphis, but I didn't have a chance to sing any country music, and I wanted to. So I wanted, and I feel that Nashville is one of the recording centers of the world, and if I was living in Tennessee, and it seemed like the logical thing to do to go over to Nashville. I had been meaning to for a long time, so I figured it's time. End of 1972, I got with some friends in Nashville, and I decided it was time to move. Things happened very fast when I first moved to Nashville. I anticipated that I'd have to spend some time without work, and quite a hard struggle. I guess I was very lucky in a sense, but I have known people in Nashville for many years, and I've had friends there. So I guess in a sense, I've been part of Nashville even before I moved there. But I came first of '73, and I was lucky that I right away got a job playing at Roger Miller's King of the Road. They have a nightclub on the roof, and all of 1973 I played there on the roof in the nightclub, and which led me to meet the folks with RCA and start recording records for those folks. We recorded 3 songs in January of 1973. All Together Now Let's Fall Apart, The Girl That Waits on Tables, and I Hate You. And at this time, I wasn't recording for any recording company. We recorded the songs and mixed down the tapes and went around talking to the different recording companies. And Jerry Bradley at RCA was the one who seemed much more interested in me and what I was singing, what I was saying in my songs, and he was the one that decided that after we'd talked to so many folks, I'm really glad that we went with RCA, and I'm especially thankful to Jerry. My first record was released on May the 15th of '73, and it went out with an A and a B side, different than from some records which go out both songs on the record, stereo and mono. But this went out as an A and B side. All Together Now Let's Fall Apart, the A side, and I Hate You, the B side. And all Together Now Let's Fall Apart was getting some reaction, and Bill Mack down in Texas said that he was getting more reaction from I Hate You, the B side. So they flipped the record in Texas, and I kind of was afraid of that because I thought that we'd start getting split airplay, and at that time I thought, well, that's it for the record. We probably won't get it on this one. But I Hate You caught on, and I got to hand it to the folks down there. They had the right idea, because I Hate You eventually was the bigger of the 2 songs, although All Together Now Let's Fall Apart was played in many markets, especially up in New York and New Jersey and Ohio and that area. But it turned out being a double-sided hit record. They're all favorites. The Girl That Waits on Tables was especially one of my favorites because I had a chance to say something for the girls who do wait on the tables, and I always wanted to sing a good, hard, down roots country song that was like that. I never had the chance to do that before. Pure Love was another favorite of mine because it was a song that everybody could identify with, not just one particular group of people, that everybody could. Well, from being in the music industry for some time, I was mostly aware of what I would have to do and what being on the road would be like. I knew that I'd run into a few mobility problems, and most of them, though, I pretty well had figured out from talking to other entertainers and listening around to people talk. You learn kind of how, I know you're jumping from city to city and from auditorium to hotel to bus to airplanes and all those things, but it really wasn't that hard. And when it was hard, a couple of times, as I said, we have more fun, so that I don't really feel the hardship. But a few times when we may have had a few problems, there was a guy that's been with me for a long time, since back in Memphis, 1970, and he plays drums, sings harmony with me, has traveled on the road with me quite some time, and all the way through the Charlie Pride tour he was there. His name is Steve Holt, and as I say, when we had any kind of a slight problem or anything that anything we needed that I needed some help on, he was there. Theory on being successful. Of course, my theory is one that's been used by millions of other people, and that's work. It's hard work. It means when you cut your records that you don't just go into the studio and expect them to come off. you do your homework. You know, you get ready. You learn the songs ahead of time, and you plan out arrangements in your mind, and you work things out with your producer, and you talk it over and hash all this out. That's doing your homework before you get into the studio. Then when you go in, when I go in the studio, I know the songs inside out. I understand what they mean, so that I can hopefully make them mean something to the folks. And after a record is released, you need to spend time talking to people, getting reaction, and I'm a big believer that since the people who gave me such a chance with my first record, I always like to call those same people up again and say thank you and get the reaction on the new record, and if they like it, and if they don't like it, I listen and I learn from that. And the people in radio have been so good to me. As I say, when the first record came out, I called all these radio stations. I got the CMA list down, and I called up radio station so and so over here. I called them up, and the folks will talk to you. You know, disc jockeys talk with you. People all over the radio stations, they talk with you, and I really appreciate it, and I love them for it, and I'll never forget them for it. And then when you get on the stage, it's making sure that you've done your homework, that you've rehearsed, and you've got your show together, and that you know the songs, and that you're willing to learn from what an audience will teach you. Because when you get on stage, an audience may decide that they really like something that you didn't anticipate. So you learn each time and try to pick up these things and add as you go along. Can I feel an audience when I'm on stage? Yes, I certainly can, and I get a lot of vibrations. That's the word, I think, from the audience. I can sense when I may be doing something that they really love, or doing something that maybe they don't care for as much. You get signals, even though they don't. I don't have to hear them clap. I don't have to hear them make a sound. It's an electricity between an artist and an audience that I'm sure all artists feel it, but of course it's all I have to rely on, and I do feel it. There may be other blind entertainers who do sign, script autographs, but I don't know of any. Most of the entertainers sign either in Braille or they don't sign one. And this was the only thing, because I've never been sensitive about being blind. There's nothing for me to be sensitive about. I can't miss anything I've never had. But the only thing that I was a little worried about for a while was the autograph, because it's very important to the fans. They love to come and get close to the artists, and they want something they can keep. And an autograph is the sensible, the reasonable thing, and most usually asked for. And I couldn't do it for a while. So I spent time, I must give a lot of credit to my wife and her sister. One summer I spent a couple of weeks down on the beach, and I learned script from writing in the sand, and I could feel it, because as you push down into the sand, you can feel the tracing, of the letters in the sand, because I'd never understood what script looked like, having never seen it before. I understand the print alphabet better than the script alphabet still, But by writing in the sand, I learned to write script. That's how I learned to autograph. Well, the first year I did considerably better than I had anticipated on doing. I do believe that through hard work, that if you want something to happen, if you have a dream, that if you work hard enough at it, that it's going to happen, But I certainly didn't expect that after the first year of being in Nashville recording with RCA, that things would have gone so well. Yes, I do. In fact, on my third album, I have a couple of compositions that I wrote. Well, in looking for material, first you're looking for a good song. but sometimes even a good song may not fit me. It might be good for George Jones or Vicky Carr or somebody, but it may not be good for me. So I try to find something that I can relate to, something that possibly that even I've lived at some time in my life, that I can sing and feel like that I'm singing as a, from living the experience, that I sing it firsthand. Well, a lot of folks wonder how my music's different than other folks' music, and I like to feel that my music is people music, music for the people. If you live in the country, if you live in the city, if some folks might take it country, some folks might take it rock and roll, some folks might take it classical, some folks might say I sing the blues, and I sing all of them, and I just want to sing music that everybody can enjoy. How do I relax in spare time? Of course, everybody has their own way. I even listen to music sometimes is relaxing, believe it or not, because I listen to so many different kinds of music. But I love to bowl. I've been a bowler since high school when I was on a bowling team. I use a rail and I set it up behind the foul line, and I can control the ball by speed of my step and speed of my arm delivery. And I used to have a 161 average. However, it has suffered considerably since I've been on the road so much. I'm a ham radio operator. Amateur radio has been a favorite thing of mine since I was 10 or 11 years old. And I've had a novice ticket all back in that period, and I got a general amateur radio license in 1968 and an advanced in 1970. I had to pass all those code tests and electrical theory tests from the FCC to get the license. And I used to spend a lot of times in nightclubs where I was playing, studying the Braille books and the transcribed Braille that I had. One time I spent 6 months in the Playboy Club on 20-minute intermissions, studying all that material to pass the test. But it's been very rewarding. Used to spend more time, but I love to talk to folks all over the world. Used to come in Memphis when I was living there and talk to Australia from 2 o'clock until daybreak. And used to run phone patches for friends over in Western Europe. And that's just a lot of fun. And right along in the same vein, I'm a collector of old radio shows for 2 reasons. Because I love radio drama. I grew up on it. And for another reason, because I'm kind of a history nut, love history, and a lot of them have newscasts and commercials and other data that kind of date the material. Oh, if I weren't a musician, I would probably be in broadcasting. I guess is the first thing that comes to my mind because of my interest for radio and the radio industry, Yeah, I sure did. Did a radio show down at WBAP. Don Day invited me in the studio one afternoon. We went in there, and I spent 45 minutes behind the board, punching the buttons and cueing the records and rolling the carts. And they were helping me get the commercials program at the right time. And I'm kind of putting it together, Well, I was sitting up on the front row that night. I certainly did not expect and did not anticipate winning the award. I was surprised and shocked to even be included in the 5, and very happy to be included in the 5. And I guess the only thing I can say is when they called my name that I was in very much shock. Honestly and sincerely, I didn't, because during 1974, to me, all the good things, the big things of that year had been done by Charlie Rich, and he won a lot of awards that night, and I really thought that he would be the male vocalist of 1974. I was just tickled to be in a 5. I think for a few seconds I actually passed out. But when I regained consciousness, I think I stood up and I heard everybody behind me clapping and hollering, and I was in total shock. My manager and producer came up and grabbed me and said, "Hey, they said your name. You got to get up on the stage." I walked up on stage and still in total disbelief, and instead of speaking into the microphone, tried to speak into the trophy when they handed it to me. I never really did get a chance to speak into the microphone other than saying that I love you, and which is what I felt that night, the love for everybody there. I was totally surprised. Well, of course, to know that, that so many people are pulling for you, and to get such an award does increase your confidence. It makes you believe more in what you're doing, maybe that is the right direction. It's made me a lot more busier than we used to be. Yes, I received one other award that was meaningful to me. Back in 1971, while I was living in Memphis, Tennessee, I received an award from the Memphis Music Association for Most Promising New Artist. Only thing I can say, to the fans is thank you so much for your loyalty and for your support and for all the love that you've shown, especially on the chances that I've had to meet you when we've been playing in your hometowns, and I just only thing I can say is thanks. I love you.